Hi, I'm George Kusu Ankrah. My topic is on brain myth. Subtopic: Gender brain myth. A brain myth is a false idea about the brain. Gender brain myths are a collection of false beliefs that are said along gender lines. For example, men are better thinkers than women. I strongly believe that brain myth is more in the African culture than in anywhere else. Culturally, in most African family setups, men make up the crucial decisions and women only get the instructions. I believe these misconceptions are perpetuated by some of the setups we have in our educational system. For example, the single gender education. I want to look at some of the pros and cons of the single gender education. The pros. 1. Educators can design their teaching style according to gender. Some people say that the single gender classroom make it easier for the teacher to prepare gender-specific lessons for the students. According to studies, boys and girls have different preferences when it comes to learning behaviors. Males are usually more on physical activities, while females prefer interactions with peers. With this observation in mind, supporters of single-gender classrooms say that educators can adjust their teaching style according to gender. 2. The lesson distractions. Most people claim that separating girls from boys will keep the student more focused in studying, since they will not be conscious with members of opposite sex. They say that having mixed students in the classroom can encourage these kids to get into early relationships, as opposed to being in class with either only boys or girls. 3. They lessen the pressure on students. People who are in support of the single gender education points out that when the students are in a mixed gender settings, there is some kind of pressure on both boys and girls when it comes to a particular subject, like mathematics and science. Some believe that boys are more comfortable in subjects like mathematics than girls, whilst girls excel more in poetry and music. In the same gender classroom, there will be less pressure for both boys and girls, and students will be more confident in academics. The cons of single-sex education. 1. This type of environment will prepare some boys and girls to interact with the opposite sex. Opponents of the single-gender classroom environment argue that in some point in their lives, boys and girls will have to coexist with each other, particularly after college. The work environment in particular compromises male and female employees. Being used to people of the same gender might pose a problem once the need to interact with the opposite sex set in. 2. Single gender classroom settings are not fit for some boys and girls. Some students work well with peers of the same gender. Conversely, there are those who will shine better when in a mixed classroom settings. There are assertive kids who might intimidate other students in gender classroom environment. Because of this, critics argue that single education does not work well at all times, and careful considerations should be made before enrolling students into schools. 3. Not all educators are prepared to teach in gender-specific type of environment. Just as school children might not fit in a single-gender classroom, also there are teachers who might not have the skills and preferences to teach in single-gender classrooms. Although educators can use different teaching styles, not all of them can adapt to teaching all boys or all girls. As a result, this can affect the type of education children will be getting through teaching and learning. 4. Children at an early age should be taught to coexist so that they can face the world challenges. There is no doubt that male and female species are different in so many ways. People who oppose single-gender classrooms say that preparing students to be with peers of opposite sex will teach them these differences and make it easier for them to adapt to situations and understand that men and women can compromise and complement each other. On the other hand, single-gender classroom settings can affect the social skills of students. 5. In primary school level, single-gender might end up causing children to develop a hatred for the opposite sex. 6. In high school, single-gender usually result in high cases of bullying. 7. Because of the absence of the opposite sex, homosexuality is prevalent at the single-sex schools. In sight of the said pros and cons, if single-gender classroom is considered ideal, students will remain a divided topic and controversial, with the view expressed by supporters and critics. Deciding whether this is a perfect educational setting can be difficult. Enrolling students in any schools need a lot of considerations and should not be only based on gender. At the end of the day, the parents should talk to their kids when it comes to the type of education they believe suit their children. If you are serious about debunking the gender brain myth, the single-sex education must be eliminated and always encourage the boys and girls to learn together in harmony. Another gender brain myth is about the mental capability. When I was growing up, I was once that type of person who believed that in terms of class performance, it is unacceptable to have a girl perform better than me. Even now, many people still believe that boys are better than girls when it comes to subjects like science and mathematics. To address these misconceptions, I would like to touch on neuroscience. Neuroscience is the study of how the nervous system develops, its structure, and how it does function. It focuses on the brain and its impact on behavior and cognitive functions. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development popularized the term neuromyth to describe common but incorrect beliefs about the brain held by educators and others. In a research conducted by Generepon titled A Welcome Blow to the Myth of Distinct Male and Female Brains, mentioned that based on the detailed and careful analysis of core features seen in the scan of 1,400 females and males human beings, Israeli researcher Daphna Joel and colleagues demonstrated that most are unique mix previously thought to be either male or female. A brain that is not a mix was found to be extremely well. She continued to say that, and I quote, "What's more, for several years, psychologists have been saying that in terms of cognitive skills and personality characteristics, the two sexes are much more similar than different. Just knowing whether someone is a male or female is a poor predictor of almost any kind of behavior. Most recently, researchers showed that an over 100 different behavior measures, males and female scores could not be reliably or accurately grouped into two distinct categories." Unquote. Jessica Hamzelos also wrote a paper entitled "Scan Proof There is No Such Thing as a Male or Female Brain." In this paper, she said, I quote, "You may have read that having a female brain will earn you more money, or maybe that the female brains are better in multitasking, but there is no such thing as a female or male brain. According to the first search for sex difference across the entire human brain, it reveals that most people have a mix of male and female brain features. And it also supports the idea that gender is non-binary and gender classification in many situations are meaningless. Unquote. Jessica also mentioned that to test this theory, Joel and her colleagues looked for differences in brain scans taken from 1,400 people aged 13 and 85. The team looked for variations in size of the brain regions as well as the connections between them. In groups identified, 29 brain regions that are generally seems to be different in size identify male and female. These include the hippocampus, which is involved in memory, and the inferior frontal gyrus, which is thought to play a role in risk aversion. Having said all this, clearly there is a need to address these misconceptions in our society. It is obvious that most people in the world are sitting with this myth. African culture, to be precise, is one which is reluctant to accept that women are capable of thinking on their own and also making crucial decisions as good as men. This is evidenced in the questions to the following questions. How many female presidents do we have in Africa? Clearly, Africa, if not the whole world, believe that females are not capable. To address this, I believe that awareness needs to be raised among teachers. This can be done through training workshops. If teachers are ignorantly sitting with this myth, its damaging effects are still going to perpetuate. If teachers are well trained on this issue, then they will take this important information to students through subjects like life skills in primary school level and life orientation in the higher school level. I am optimistic that if all stakeholders take this initiative seriously, the gender brain myth can be a thing of the past. Thank you.